Cool, cool, cool. All right. Everyone watching this, whether it be the replay or live, boys and girls, aunts and uncles, trees, dogs, cats, and everything in between, and other human beings, is another episode of the Financial Life Cast. And today is a special topic or interesting one, the financial food connection. Not what you think, but we'll dive into that today. And today I have a amazing guest. Dr. Nina. It's a joke. We may discuss it. I have Dr. Nina on today who helps people with, and you'll correct me on this, eating disorders, binge eating, and some other things too, with emotions. But I'll let her introduce herself. I don't want to butcher it or anything else, but Dr. Nina, I thank you for being on today to have a discussion about finances and food and what's really going on beneath the level of awareness we call the conscious mind going on in the subconscious or unconscious mind, what's telling us. So who are you? What story? And what's going on? Thank you. And thank you for being on today.
Who am I? Well, I'm a dog lover. I'm a mom of girls, not in that order. I love my husband. No, I'm a,
Love my husband, but only on like
and
only
I
on
love my
Tuesdays.
kids.
There you go.
And the dog he's just right outside. So he came to mind first. Anyway, no, I am a psychoanalyst. So yes, it is indeed Dr. Nina. I'm a psychoanalyst and I specialize in eating disorders, specifically binge eating disorder. And I help people heal from emotional eating, binge eating, stress eating, any of that by focusing not on food, but what's eating at them. Because it is not what you are eating that is the problem, it is why. And often that why is hidden in our unconscious minds. I like to say it's like a root and a weed. Like you don't have to be a gardener to know that if you just pluck the weed, it will grow back because a root is growing it, but we can't
Right.
see the root. It's
Yeah.
hidden. It's underground. Just like there is so much in us that is hidden from our conscious awareness, but it has everything to do with what we do. So if we're doing something we don't want to do, like head into the kitchen and eat the world, or we're not doing something we want to do, like go exercise and take care of ourselves, there's always, 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 always a reason, and that is hidden. We got to get to those emotional roots. And when we do that, everything changes. That's why I don't believe in recovery. I believe in liberation.
I like that. Yeah, because a lot of people say, oh, I'm recovering this. I'm like, you can't be in recovery forever. At some point, you do. Because if you think about it, if you were to be in recovery forever, you wouldn't heal physically from anything. You'd be constantly in recovery from an accident or something happened in your childhood. Like at some point, you
You
move past, you
heal.
let go. Yeah, you heal, you liberate, you
We
get free of it.
exactly. And I really I don't believe in recovery for exactly that reason. It's like you're in recovery as if it's something you always have to think about. And I'm like, no, I want you to think about your day, not your diet. That's liberation. Liberation is, hey, I used to deal with that.
Right.
I don't anymore. And now it's in my rear view mirror and I am not dealing with it anymore. And I help people who've been struggling for decades,
Wow.
20, 30, 40, even 50 years of people who they're like, I've been on a diet all my life. My mom put me on a diet when I was 8, or guys too who've been dieting for decades, or and thinking it's like some kind of a woman's issue, but it's not, or they just think they're a food addict, but they're not. It doesn't matter how long you've been struggling, there is a way out. You can get liberated. That's why I call it the binge cure method, not the binge recovery method, the
Yeah.
binge cure method,
Right.
because I believe in the cure in liberation.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's start here. So what exactly is binge eating? We all hear of it, and then some people will jokingly say the term, but I think when people say this, oh my God, I ate binge, I ate like 5 cookies back to back, and it's like a guilt thing. But what really is it? So people understand that's not binge eating. You had more than you think you should have. This is binge eating. It's way, 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 way different. 9-day difference.
Overeating is one thing. Overeating is you just had a little too much. And maybe it's emotional eating. Maybe you had the cookies because you were upset and you were comforting yourself. That's like emotional eating to feel better.
Yeah.
But binge eating would be more like the 50 cookies, and then you're just getting started, or something like that. So, right, binging is when you just can't stop. You feel this compulsion to keep going. Maybe you eat until you're uncomfortably full. Maybe even
Oof.
it hurts, but you can't stop, and you hate yourself. Like, overeating is, I
Hmm.
had too much. Oh, okay, I'll have a little less later.
Yeah.
Binge eating is that you hate yourself and you feel shame, self-recrimination, and it's just a terrible, toxic way to live. But here's what people don't understand about binge eating. It's not about food. It's not about food. It's a solution to a problem. It uses food, but ultimately
Right.
it's not about food. So
Right.
that's the difference between binge eating and say overeating. It's when it's motivated by this like just compulsion that you can't stop.
I cannot imagine living like that, but people do. So it's kind of like overeating Thanksgiving. We overeat. We're like, oh my God, I ate so much. Okay, fine. It is what it is. That's like once a year. And then to binge eat, like just thinking about it, like I'm like, I couldn't do that. I like food. I love to eat. But when you hear people that were like that, and you're like, you ate how much? And it's like, how are you still alive? Like at some point, does your stomach just like burst or like what goes on physiologically in the body for the body to just be able to tolerate that and keep the person alive? Like it's
Well, here's the thing is some people binge eat and you cannot tell because they are not overweight. They'll binge eat, but then they'll starve themselves, or they'll overcompensate with exercise or whatever. And it is a fallacy that you can tell if someone has an eating disorder. And by the way, binge eating disorder is the most prevalent eating disorder. More people have binge eating disorder than anorexia and bulimia combined. But it's
wow.
the eating disorder that no one knows they have. They think they have no willpower. They think they have no control. They think they're a
Hmm.
food addict. And so you don't always see the impact of binge eating on someone physically. Of course, it's bad for your body in every way. And some people do most people do gain weight.
Right.
So all of the dangers of carrying excess weight affect you because of that. But it's not about food, in that it's serving some purpose that's out of awareness. Like, I have a great story to share. I shared this story with you like before we talked about Jenna and the chunky monkey. Did I share that?
I don't think so.
No,
Sure.
maybe not.
Anyway,
Okay,
it's all good. It's gonna be a good story. I can tell.
here it is. Okay, so Jenna came to me, and she was one of those people who's like, "Oh, I'm a food addict." And she came to me and she's like, "Hey, maybe some of your other people, they're dealing with emotional issues." She's like, "I'm not dealing with any emotional issues. I'm fine." She's like, "I'm just a food addict and I can prove it." And knowing that I do not believe in food addiction,
Okay.
maybe eating addiction, if we're going to use the word addiction, which I don't love, maybe an eating addiction, but which is different from food. Um, so I'm like, "Okay, I'm all ears. Please prove that you are a food addict." So she tells me that she was hanging out, good day at work, nothing was bothering her. She's like watching TV, Netflix, and chilling. And
Mhm.
all of a sudden, as she puts it, Ben and Jerry's was calling her name. She's like, "Calling my name. I'm addicted to Chunky Monkey." I'm like, "Okay, wait, before we go there, what were you watching before Ben and Jerry started calling your name?" She's like, "My favorite show, Charmed." So because she was watching a show that she really enjoyed, her favorite, guilty pleasure, there was no reason, or she thought there was no reason, that she'd want to go down a pint of ice cream.
Mm.
I'm like, "Okay, wait, what was the episode actually about?" She's like, "Oh, it's when this demon comes, breaks the bond between the sisters. They start fighting. It gets nasty and horrible." Now, I know that Jenna has a terrible relationship with her sister. So I say to her, "Oh, sisters fighting, huh?" And she goes, "Oh," like she did one of those like Home Alone, "Oh," like, "Oh my
Right.
God." because then she realized that watching that show activated so much feelings about her own sister, that they had a terrible relationship,
Wow.
that but before it could reach conscious awareness, she went to ice cream for comfort and distraction. Ice cream was not
Mm.
the problem. Ice cream was the solution to the problem. And if we'd been like, well, Jenna, when ice cream calls your name, why
Resist
don't
it.
take the dog for a walk, journal, brush your teeth, take a bubble bath, all the stupid things that people are told to do, the stupid distractions. Those are just distractions. We would have never, and they don't work as well as binging. If brushing your teeth worked as well as binging, by the way, everyone would have the whitest teeth in the world.
Right.
No. So what the problem was her difficulty dealing with her relationship with her sister. And when we worked on that, and she could cultivate new ways of processing that and comforting herself, ice cream stopped calling her name. And that is why I'm like, I'm a detective of the mind. We're going to solve the mystery of why you want to eat everything. And maybe it's, for some people, it's filling a void symbolically. For other people, it's, they get mad at themselves for eating or for what they weigh, because God
Hmm.
forbid they should be mad at someone else that they love. Like, oh, I'm not an angry person, but then I'm so mad at myself. Right. So it's really about like figuring out the why. I like to say it's about why power, not willpower.
I like that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I agree with that. It's not the willpower, but it's like it's going to root cause us why. Because you don't know that, then you're just dealing with the symptoms and not looking at. And that's interesting how that's what powerful like the unconscious mind is, because she's just watching and enjoying the show for what it is, but that specific episode and the unconscious mind goes, wait a minute, oh no 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 no, this is triggering a memory for us. We can't do it. Time to go to ice cream. Ice cream. Oh, okay, I'll do ice cream. It's like, why'd you do that? That makes a lot of sense. Wow. Kind of makes me think of like other things in my life. Like, what happens beneath the surface of awareness that makes you go, oh shit, we can't do this. Do this instead. It's a lot of things that we're not consciously aware of. So that's interesting. Oh, okay. I have another question for you too. We talked about this yesterday. What is the difference between a psychologist and psychoanalyst? Because people hear these terms all the time. I'm sure, like, I'm sure once, but it's important to know the difference between the two because they're not the same thing. Because then you have it's like psychology, psychologists, psychoanalysts, psychiatrists, and it's
Yeah.
like they're all different.
All the psychs. Yeah. So a psychiatrist, so all therapists used to be psychiatrists back in the day.
Okay.
And now psychiatrists, and it used to be also that only psychiatrists could be psychoanalysts. Little history. But now psychiatrists, most of them only deal with your brain, not your mind, your brain.
Mhm.
So you go to a psychiatrist who's an MD to get medication for depression or whatever. And you talk to a psychologist or a psychoanalyst for therapy. So the difference between being a psychologist and being a psychoanalyst is, well, you can be a psychologist and a psychoanalyst. To be a psychoanalyst, you have to be either a psychiatrist, either a doctor, a psychologist, a social worker, some other kind of licensed mental health professional. And then you go into training uh, to the deep dive of the unconscious mind and understanding how our unconscious affects our lives. Sort of what I was talking about. It's
Yeah.
the difference between, and people often say like, "Oh, you're a psychoanalyst like Freud." Like, and
No.
my answer to that is comparing Freud to contemporary psychoanalysis is like comparing a Model T Ford to a Tesla. They are both cars, but psychoanalysis, like motor vehicles, have evolved in the last 100+ years. So really, it's about as a psychoanalyst, and also we're the most clinically trained mental health professionals there are. Nobody is more clinically trained because, first of all, we have to be licensed before you become an analyst.
Right.
And then to be an analyst, you've got to be in analysis 4 times a week on the couch for like a minimum of 4 years. It's intense.
Wow.
And do clinical work and do all the academic work and do the whole dissertation and all of that. So that's the difference. Psychoanalysts really look at what's hidden, what's in our unconscious.
Right. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. That sounds like too much work to go back to school. I'm tired of school. I left college and I was like, I don't want to do any graduate work. This is ridiculous. I'm gonna just do what I really want to do and take a break. You know, that is intense. Good grief. Mm.
But you could still be a student of psychology, and which obviously you are because you're interested in unconscious motivations, whether it's financial or otherwise, right? There's
Yeah.
always something underneath.
There always is, and I feel like people I think feel like most people understand that. They're like, okay, that makes sense. And that's where a lot of them stop. It's and I don't know if they don't get it. They're like, what do you mean the unconscious mind? And then some people I think don't want to accept that. Because I remember for me, my own personal journey, when I would talk with like people do energy work and they can like tune to your energy, they would say, well, unconsciously you're punishing yourself. And I would try to think consciously, I'm like, why would I do that? Stupid. That makes no sense. And it's like you're not connecting with the unconscious mind the way that it communicates, so the way it operates through feelings, behaviors, symbols, that type of stuff. You can't just like
Dream.
talk to it like, okay, unconscious mind reduce state. Okay, Matt, sure. It's like that's how it works because when the unconscious mind starts sometime in the womb, then you're born from 0 to age 5, you are unconsciously acting with the world. You're taking everything, and then conscious mind kicks in at 5, 6, and it's the reason why most people can't remember anything past the age of 5.
You know how the other analogy that I like to make is like you can't fight an invisible army, you just get beaten up. You just
Right.
get beaten up because you can't see what's coming at you. But when
Exactly.
you make that army visible through everything you said, including also dreams, I do a lot of dream analysis to help people uncover
Wow.
their unconscious and all that. But when you make it visible, then you see what you are fighting, you see what you're really fighting, and then you can fight back and then you can win.
Right.
And so it's really cool. It's not easy to recognize that we have logic and what we know, but it's not logical, it's psychological often. And it's very disconcerting to realize, oh, there are parts of ourselves that are hidden from us. What? Very disconcerting.
It's like why would it be hidden from me? This makes sense. I chose this today. Yeah, but that emotion that comes up when you're gonna do something stops you because there's a part of it that says, no, we shouldn't do this.
It's protection. Yeah. Defense mechanisms are protections.
Yeah.
Defense mechanisms are out of our awareness, but not out of operation. So, and that shows up. I know we're talking about food and finances
Yes.
and how that often like shows up how people are doing things that are not in their best interest and they can't figure out why. That's where you get into the unconscious hidden motivations.
Yeah. Real quick, we'll go back to that. How in the world do you dream analysis? Because I feel like there's so many books on this, and I feel like some people are just guessing. Other people kind of know, and it's like because dreams vary from person to person. Some people have recurring dreams. I do know that in dreams that if you really bother stressed about something, it will show up in your dream as something, whatever. But like, how do you do dream analysis? Because it's funny because I've heard like when you're dreaming about one thing, it's not specifically what you're dreaming about. It's something else deeper. Like for example, like you're dreaming about grabbing a cookie and the cookie jar is always empty. And doesn't mean you're hungry. It means you're missing out on something in life you don't know why. Like that's what it is. It's like what?
Right.
How does it make any sense? How do you know that? Like what science says this is what your dream means? Because not like we haven't, I think, yet the ability to see someone's dream. Maybe a little bit, but I'll stop talking. But yeah.
Well, the answer is that I can't understand someone's dream without their help. Like everyone also thinks that somehow psychoanalysis is like you're just sitting there silently while they're talking on the couch. No, it's very interactive. It's collaborative. It's like, I tell people we're a team, right?
Yeah.
We're co-detectives solving the mystery. So in terms of dream interpretation, why those dream books don't work at all is that the whatever is going on in a dream is the purview of the dreamer. So if
Right.
one person dreams about, a cookie jar, it's going to have different meaning than another person who dreams about the cookie jar.
Right.
So and whatever it is has to do with their own particular specific experience that made them interpret something in a certain way. But I will tell you one really cool dream, and that a series of dreams that someone had that this is kind of a fun one. So she came in, she was like beating binging, she's doing better, she's losing weight. She was excited about like the changes in her life, and all of a sudden she comes in, she's like, I'm having nightmares every night, and it's always like the same dream. It starts out with this, she's like it'll say like October 29th, 2000, and I'll see it in the distance like on a black screen, and then it'll just come closer and closer and closer until it's going to like destroy me. And every night it was a different date, a different, different month, different day, different year. And
Mhm.
some of them were like, 18 blah blah blah, 1800 and at first I was like, well, what do these actual dates mean to you? And she's like, well, October 29th, it's like the stock market crash, but not in the year 2000. Like,
Right.
and then all of a sudden I'm thinking, wait a minute. This is one where I did interpret it without her help. I was like, wait a minute. She's lost weight. She was waiting to lose weight until she could start dating. The dates that are scaring her represent dates, dating, relationship dates. So
Oh,
her mind, instead of like picturing herself with a scary dude who's going to hurt her feelings, made dates scary.
oh, I see. Yeah, because then it's like, or you're getting closer, you better not. We're gonna get in a date. And
Oh,
nope,
yeah.
nope, let's not
Don't,
do it.
yeah, let's not do it. Dates are scary. You're going to be subsumed. You're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to be, yeah. So like and then we could start talking about her fears of relationships. So,
Gotcha. That makes sense. Peeling back the onion of the human mind, the unconscious, and who we are. You find out, oh, you have this from that, and parenting stuff. But anyways, the financial food connection. So you did tell me about a story about someone who you said they have they were experiencing financial bulimia.
that's my term for it. Yeah. Yeah. Um, because I had been treating them for binge eating, and uh one day this person tells me, I'm trying to make it a little disguise, that they had to go they had to go to the mall and return all the stuff that they got last week. And again. And I'm like, what do you mean again? So it turns out that every week they would go to the mall, they would spend like $1,000. They would just go on like talk about retail therapy, right? Which I'll
Yeah,
get to that in a second. They would buy up the mall, and then like the next weekend they would go and return it. And I was like, oh, shopping binges followed by returning, like purging, to returning everything.
right.
That's like financial bulimia. And it got me really interested in how often people, what they do with food, they do with money.
Mm,
It's kind of interesting to look at that. And there's a whole part in one of my books which is about that, and I think it's really interesting. I actually would like to even delve deeper into that topic, because that food money connection is kind of interesting. Yeah.
that's cool. Let's keep going. And then you said there's something else you want to talk about with that or second thing. The I think you said the retail therapy.
Well, it's interesting because people talk about shopping binges. Like when we talk about retail therapy, it's more like, oh, I'm buying something to feel better, right?
Yeah.
But often people go, when they go shopping, they go on shopping binges, right? And they just buy a bunch of stuff to feel better. And the way they describe shopping binges is the same way they describe food binges, which is you kind of go into this numb zone. You kind of go into this state of like, you know, I I can't get enough kind of a thing. And
Right.
just like, here's my card. Um,
Take it, please. Give it
and
just
then it's guilt. Like just like with food, binges followed by guilt, shame. Often when you go shopping, it's followed by guilt and shame, but we want to look deeper, right? Underground. Um, and look at how those behaviors like shopping binges and also food, but it's kind of both, helps you manage emptiness and loneliness
mm,
or express conflict over abundance, let's say,
yeah.
which, or takes you away from yourself. And so often like what you are buying can help you understand like what your motivation is. So I have another story for that because I like to give stories, and which I do in all my books and whenever I talk, because I think hearing about people is more interesting than hearing some theory. So yeah.
Well, I like theories. I mean, I watch the Joe Rogan podcast all the time. Come on now.
Well, theory applied. Like
Yeah.
if you're just like, well, this is, then it's a lecture and it's not relatable. So I like to use people's stories. So this is a story of someone I call Linda.
Ooh, Linda. Linda. See,
Linda.
Linda, listen.
And so Li- one day so Linda had a binge eating problem. Most of the people I treat have a binge eating problem or, a problem that is resolved with binge eating. And one day she comes in, she's like, "Oh, I have no room in my house. My house is just so like I just have no room. I want to I started talking about sheets, right? And she's like, I saw these sheets on sale, sheets, like bed sheets. And she's like, oh, I have a thing for sheets. And she's like, but I don't have any more room. I can't possibly buy any more sheets. And I thought, well, how many sheets does this woman have? Like,
Yeah.
she lives in this house. She lived alone in this kind of big house. And it turns out, she tells me that she had been binge buying. She'd been on shopping sprees for sheets, and she had over 150 sets of sheets. Do you know how much space 150 sets of sheets takes? A lot of space.
Jeez.
Exactly. So I'm like, I think we need to look at this thing you have for sheets.
Yeah.
And at first she's just like, oh no, I just love them. They're pretty. I like having a new sheet. I like putting it on my bed and it just feels good and whatever. But we go deeper because that's what you do when you're a psychoanalyst.
Yeah.
And it turns out that when she was a kid, she had a very difficult home life. Parents were like drunk and fighting and awful. And every time she would go to her friend, this one particular friend's house, they would always make up a nice bed and for her, and it had like flowery sheets. And she associated these sheets with the feeling of being taken care of in a really nice, loving family. And so she would always be so happy when she would be at the friend's house, and she associated the sheets with that happiness and that feeling of being taken care of. So I said, like, it seems that buying all these sheets is your way of trying to connect to that feeling of having a loving family. And Linda, who was very funny, said the following: no sheet.
Corny, but it works.
Corny, but it worked. I was like, yes, yeah. So,
No
you
sheet.
know, in her, this is what, she actually called it like her sheet addiction. She had this thing, she had this sheet addiction. But when we identified why she felt so compelled to constantly buy new sheets, it was, it was, it, she realized like it didn't matter. She could have 250, 1,000, 10,000 sets of sheets. It would never give her the feeling that she was really looking for. Just as she was also looking for that feeling with food, like to fill up a void that she could never fill. And
Right.
so really looking at, well, what is that void, and how else can she deal with it other than use food or shopping? That's when she has to mourn what happened and what didn't happen and find new ways of relating to herself. And when that happened, she stopped binging and she gave away, most of her sheets.
Most of them, not all of them.
Not well, you still need some sheets, right?
Right. But like, do you need that many of them? It's
I
like, I
think
need
she I
them.
think she kept like 10 sets of sheets, which
Oh,
is
there you
still
go. Yeah, because
abundant, but
you still
so
need to replace them after every, I don't know what, how many years, but wow.
but she was kind of filling her house with sheets the way she filled her body with food, trying to fill up an empty space.
Wow. So there really is connection with financial, financial binging, for lack of better description, and binging with food binging, basically.
Well, yeah, and then but it can serve different purposes for different
Right.
people. Like
Yeah.
like someone else who I call Patrice. Obviously, these are not their real name. Um, she like she was like overeducated. She worked at like we'll say Trader Joe's. She worked at Trader Joe's. She had a master's degree. She was underemployed. She didn't make that much money. Her parents were always helping her. And so finally, she got a better job, more high paying. And what do you think? She was like, yes, this is great. I'm going to pay off my credit cards. I'm going to be able to save money. Oh, you know where this is going, don't you? Matt, you know where this is
All
going.
right,
So
now
that's
it's.
she.
Can I take a
So
guess, or are you gonna like?
you could take a guess.
All right, here's my guess. Coming from the world of credit repair, she get a bump in financial status like financially, right? People with bad credit get a credit fixed. But if you don't deal with what's going on in the unconscious mind and what you leave yourself unworthy, you end up going right back to where you were, this time with the credit being bad with the house. In this case, I'm gonna guess she had the income, but then the financial situation just got worse or remained similar, where she was still broken. Like, what am I doing? I have no idea what's going on.
Exactly. It's like you're psychic. Yes, exactly. Like
I
in
tell myself that every morning, I'm psychic today. And then my girlfriend's like, no, you're not. I'm like, okay, never mind. I think it's just lie to me and tell me I am. Give me a break.
Yeah, like in the perfect world that she thought she was going to live in, she'd open a savings account. She wouldn't need her parents' money anymore.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So she bought expensive clothes. She started going to Air One. She bought a more expensive car. She's in the very same position that she was before. And guess what? Her parents still have to help her.
She's broke
So
at a higher level.
So she felt really guilty about
Mm,
eating. She felt guilty about her finances. She ate a lot of ice cream to soothe herself and everything.
mm.
But here's the thing, her parents were really like kind of cold and reserved, and literally the only thing they gave her was money. So for her, money was love. And we talk about food being love, representing love. Money can represent love as well. And
Right.
so if she was in a better financial situation, guess what? That financial umbilical cord to her parents gets broken, and now she gets no love from her parents, right? So really look at how
Oh, that makes sense. Unconsciously, it's like, wait a minute. And we have the better finances. We don't get mommy and daddy support and love. So let's not do that. Let's screw this up because it makes sense because your unconscious mind is always looking out for you to keep you safe. Like you train
exactly.
it to say, hey, this new, whatever it is you want, we're safe. Then you train it, it goes, oh, okay, we like, but since she did it and she wasn't aware of it, it's like, no, we got screwed up because this is what we know, and we'll still get love from our parents.
Yeah. And there was
Yeah.
this other part of her that was kind of like, oh, and you will pay for being such lousy parents. Oh, you will pay. Like
Oh,
I
that
want your
resentment.
love, but I'm gonna drain you. Like you will pay. I mean, they could afford it, but whatever. That
Right.
was her,
Right.
like that was her, instead of processing her emotions and processing what it was like to not feel loved except by getting money, and processing her resentment that they were kind of, you know, cold and stoic and not emotional at all.
Yeah.
Um, so the more that she was able to get in touch with what she wasn't wanting to get in touch with, which was her hurt, her resentment, all the things. When she did that, she could save more money and she could stop binging. So her bank account grew and she lost weight. Yay.
There you go. That's what people want. Shrinking weight, growing like money and numbers, not the inverse. Why am I gaining weight and I'm broke? You don't want that. No, 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 no. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. And I have a third possibility. How are we doing on time? Do we have time?
I think so. I don't know. I mean, we go hour and a half, 3 hours. I don't know, 3 hours, but we're good. We're gravy. Keep going. I like it. This is interesting because when I started this, I mean, me being a certified life coach and then doing the credit repair and the finances, is like I wanted to bring in more people, more topics, and just it's all about credit. That's great, but like there's more to life than that. And two, being certified and the unconscious mind and all that stuff, it's like there's deeper levels to us that we don't address, and people wonder why they can't seem to make the money they want or whatever. There's like my story, I'll share it real quick. I've shared a bunch of times when this is why, like, when we're trying to do something financially responsible that you should do up here, but you don't do it. You're like, why am I not doing this thing I know I should do? Like, I know I should shower, brush teeth. People do that, but then it's like I save money, but then I don't. Why? Because, and there's my story. And I used to babysit when I was 12, 13 years old. I would get $5 an hour, not a whole lot of money. And I'll get like 12, not 12, like 20, $30, I don't know. But my mother was trying to get me to save money, and she would make me give all the money I would get to her. And that sucked because I quickly learned. I was like, great. I would get the money in my hand and go, I don't get to use any of this. I don't spend anything. It sucked. And there's things I wanted to buy. And so what ended up happening was, for many, many years, I would go to save money, transfer from checking savings, and I would feel such resistance to it. And I'd be like, why am I not like? And then I would leave it there and I'd be like, I could feel the inside going, no, 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 no. I'm like, why? Why? Because I had made the unconscious belief that saving money is stupid, sucks, not fun, and can't do anything, whatever it was. And that's why I wouldn't do it. And that's the true thing. And this is why people, whether it be money, working out, whatever, like you should, but you have unconscious reasons as to why you shouldn't do it. And they're only there not to screw up your life, but your unconscious mind is illogical and wants to keep you safe. So, anyways.
Or repeat something familiar.
Yes, that's what it's about. It's about repeating from it's based on what we came from childhood. It's like, well, this is what we know. Let's keep recreating it. It's why you keep having hectic lives, because you haven't trained yourself to have a new one. It just knows this is what we know. All right, because outside of it, again, it's illogical. It literally thinks, shit, you want to go for more money? You want actual love and change? We could die. Oh, no, no, no. You want to do this? That means I have to be good enough. If I'm not good enough, that means I have to die. So we're not going to do that. And if you do get it, and some people have this, I'm sure you could share some experiences that you've had where people do get what they want, like we just shared, and then somehow magically they make the wrong decision, meet the wrong people, whatever it is, because the unconscious mind is saying, "No, fool, you weren't there for the first 5 years of our life. I'm in charge. I know what's best for us. So we're going back to this stuff. I win." So yeah. So, and your third thing now. Where we're going with this.
Um, the other example is like people who buy a lot of clothes or a lot of shoes or cosmetics or things like they almost like they're trying to create a different persona.
Mm,
So this one person who had like call her Ariana, and she had like she had clothes for every situation. She had the perfect clothes for every situation, but she had everything that she bought was about like creating a persona. Why? Almost like these clothes served as a mask. And so what it covered up was her sense that she didn't really feel good enough as she was. And so by dressing a certain way and always trying to look perfect, she was trying to give herself the illusion that she fit in, or she was trying to feel good enough, or whatever it was. But of course, she never did, because put on an outfit and really you can be like, yeah, I look good. And then but you don't necessarily feel good about yourself. And so she
Right.
kept buying things in this hope of that she would feel good about herself. And that does not come from your clothes, right? So that comes from within. It is an
Yeah.
inside job, trite but true. And so like really looking at, are you filling a void by like, what are you buying a lot of the same things? Like, is it sheets or other people just buy a lot of the same kinds of things, or they just buy a ton of stuff? Like Temu has made people go completely crazy on buying all this crap, and it's just like filling up their space. Well, is there an empty space within you? And are you also filling up an empty space with food? Or are you staying deprived? And sometimes when you're deprived emotionally, you also fill up with food, and you also stay deprived financially.
Right.
Or with Ariana, like, are you buying clothes and things that make you feel like you have a persona? Is it like the Wizard of Oz type thing? Like you're really just behind the curtain going, I'm not good enough, but here's my fabulous appearance. So these are all things to think of, and how we want to look at like what you do with money, what you choose to buy, how you keep yourself deprived. All of these things are interchangeable.
Gotcha. That
They're
makes sense.
connected. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, interconnected. They're interdependent.
Mhm.
No, no, we'll go with you. Interconnected. It
Yeah.
reminds me of like when you. It's like what I was gonna say. When you have that void, you can never fill a void, or it's the equivalent of trying to fill a black hole within you. You won't. Or like it's like a garbage disposal. It's full for now, then you just oh no, not again. And that it's an endless cycle of hell that you create that only you can stop when you have the right guidance to it. And be like, look, you're fine as you are. And that's something I know I struggled with for a long time myself, never feeling like I was good enough. And mine came through trying to do these high achievements and not really accepting in what I have accomplished. And then for a while, I myself personally, I remember this. I don't remember what age I was, but I looked back and went, "Oh shit! All I remembered was failure," and I went, "That's not true." Oh, I've done these things too. I was like, "Okay, cool." Like that's a big thing to do. So that was my trying to compensate. That's the word. Compensate. Yeah. Everyone does it in a different way. And I don't know why I felt like it's weird because my parents were good. They didn't abuse us or anything like that. There was the divorce. That was the traumatic thing. But even before the divorce, I've always been like, I need to do this. I need to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough. And it's weird. So
And not everybody feels like they're not good enough, or just because they have bad toxic parents. I mean, a lot of people have very bad toxic parents, and a lot of people have just situations where it's good, but other things in their lives affect them, or there's nature versus nurture, and it's not one or the other. It's just how much of what affects what person. Because some people are totally affected by their environment and who they're born in, the family they're born into, and some people
yeah.
are not at all. And some people sort of half and half. So it just, everyone's an individual. But you learn, like we learn this way of thinking about ourselves, and we can unlearn it and learn a new way. And that's what's really cool. Scientists now call it brain plasticity. All that really means is we can learn new stuff. That's all
Right.
it means.
We can always change. We're never stuck into one thing.
We can evolve. Yeah.
Yes. Evolve, change, upgrade, whatever word works for you, use it. It's your choice. It's your world. We're just talking in it right now.
Yeah. I just want to share my philosophy of the work that I do
Go
is
for it.
it's tied to Michelangelo.
The Ninja Turtle
Michelangelo,
or the artist?
the artist, not the Ninja Turtle.
That would be
Um,
cool. I'm like, wow, the Ninja Turtle, she's awesome. I'm gonna hire her right now for no reason, just because of that.
So Michelangelo was supposedly asked, how do you turn these great blocks of stone into statues? And oh my God, I remember being at the Uffizi in Florence and looking at the David going like, what? Like, unbelievable. How do you turn these great blocks of stone into statues? And he said, and I paraphrase, I do not turn the stone into statues. I free the statues from the stone, which is beautiful. And that's how I like to think of the work that, well, I do, you and you do, that people do, that are helping people. We're not trying to change you. The idea is not to change. The
Right.
idea is to chip away at what is keeping you stuck so you can be your true, best, most authentic you.
Yep. Yep. That's what it's about. Um, what would be, I guess, some, I don't want to say takeaways. What are some, if someone's trying to like change their ways with eating, binge eating, and then also the financial binging, what are some simple things they can do?
Well, they can realize that the behavior is the solution to the problem. So to ask themselves, like, what is this solving for me? If I were not thinking about food, because a lot of people, they're just thinking about it all the time, forget eating it, they're also eating it. But a lot of times it's just like the ruminating, the thinking about it 24/7. If I weren't thinking about food, if I weren't thinking about not eating, if I weren't thinking about my next binge, if I weren't binging, what would be on my mind? What would I be worried about? Because whatever it is a distraction. Like whatever it is, you're distracting yourself from it by focusing on food or focusing on those shopping binges. What
Right.
is it you do not want to get in touch with? And then when you recognize that, you've got to express it. People say, "Oh, I guess I've got to just sit through my feelings." No, you can't sit through your feelings any more than you can drop them, ignore them, you know, positive think them away or stuff them down. So you
Right.
got to go like express them in a healthy way, not necessarily to the person that's upsetting you, but for yourself, and cultivate ways of responding to yourself in a new way that is that like fills you up with something supportive and more loving. Often people attack themselves when what they really need is to show up for themselves. And when you do that, when you stop and think, when you identify what are the thoughts and feelings, when you express them and respond to yourself, whether it's shopping binges or food binges, things will change. It's easier to focus on food than it is to focus on what's eating at you. Way easier. But then you're stuck and then you'll never get out of that trap.
Yeah.
But the
Oh, no.
is through. And then and then that's how you heal. When you heal, then you're liberated.
I like that. Yeah, that's like for a lot of people, I think the hardest part is looking at is taking that first step into looking into themselves versus the outside. Like you said, it's easier to look at the food versus, well, it's you doing it, you know. It reminds me of the case. There's two cases, but the one case with one guy from McDonald's who was like, "I didn't know McDonald's fries were making me fat. How dare they?" It's like, well, no, it's you. So let's take a look at what you're doing, not blame McDonald's. And I think he won the case, but that's a different story. But anyways, but yeah. So what is your book? Do you have more than one book out, or four?
Yeah, I have a few books, but my mainstream book is I just happen to have it right here. Binge Cure. Well, I have a few. I have the Binge Cure, 7 Steps to Outsmart Emotional Eating. Then I have the Binge Cure Journal, which is really a guided journal. It's a with all kinds of like worksheets. It's what is it? 200 and something pages of worksheets that really help you apply the principles of the book. But wait, there's more. I didn't realize I was doing this. Then I have like adult coloring books.
Adult coloring books?
Color Yourself Confident
Huh.
and Color Yourself Happy. So if you feel like you can't, like for people who are, because coloring, and they have all, like I value, they're all like little sayings, but change happens outside my comfort zone.
Right.
They're all sayings that are to be encouraging and all of that, but a lot of times people can't be with themselves which is why meditation is a terrible thing to suggest for people who struggle with food or other things. This way, it gives you something else to do. You could, if you feel like you can't watch TV without eating popcorn, watch TV, but also maybe color in a coloring book or whatever. It's a
Uh,
soothing, like relaxing activity that can be a much better distraction than binge eating or Amazon shopping or anywhere else or Temu or anywhere else.
or turn your phone off and focus on coloring.
Mhm.
People get a hard time with that. I mean, I turn my phone off at night. Like I turn it off because of the radiation and stuff. But people are like, oh no, I get it. I'm like, yeah, there was a time when cell phones didn't exist. I remember that. We had landlines. And when emergency happened, you found out. Life will find a way to let you know something you need to know. So phone can go off. Like give yourself a break for a minute, you know? So cool. Well, Dr. Nina, today I appreciate you for being on. It's been good conversation. I'd like to be back on again because I know there's a lot more we can talk about, and to really help people out with. I didn't know that the food addiction, food the I can't talk. The food binging on food is the most prevalent. Um, I feel like for me. Because, like you said, just because a person isn't overweight does mean they're binging on food. I think my image has been when you're binge eating, it's either very obvious we've seen it on TV shows, especially with my 600-pound life and that people think, okay, that's binge eating. It's like no, it's different. It's hidden. You don't see it because like no one's gonna be like, here's my personal issues. Woo! No one does that. It's hidden, so you don't see it, but you can notice it. So yeah, so for the people who want to connect with you, how can they do so?
They can find me on my website, Dr. Nina Inc., DrNinaInc.com. You can find me at The Binge Cure on TikTok. You can find me on my YouTube channel. Oh, just passed 6,000 subscribers, so very happy about
Nice.
that. And I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. Just look for, The Binge Cure, Dr. Nina. Get my book on Amazon. Here it is again. Shameless self-promotion. Here it is. Dr. Nina Savelle-Rocklin. Look for me anywhere. I am on all social media except X.
Used to be called Twitter, now it's just X. It sounds so weird to say that, but it is what it
Mhm.
is. Change happens. X. What do we
And
know?
I X'd out of that particular platform, but that's
I don't,
another story.
yeah, I don't blame you. We won't go into that, and that's fine. Cool. Well, I thank you for being on today, ma'am, and we'll have you on again. And for everyone else, that's it. We'll see you next episode. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.